We step into the world of big dreams, big moves, and big money. It's the Big Cheese Miami Recruiting and NIL Report with Manny Navarro. After 40 years, the Big Cheese remains dedicated to serving the finest Italian dinners, pizza, pasta, subs, and salads. All of their pasta is imported from Italy and cooked fresh every day. Visit BigCheeseMiami.com. Now, let's find out who's the Big Cheese the Miami Hurricanes are working on with insider Manny Navarro.
All right. There he is, locked and loaded and ready to go. How you feeling, my friend? You feeling good?
Feeling good. Oh, how are you?
Good. I was looking at a video. Was that Jackson Cantwell himself, like lifting like 500 pounds in that video?
Yeah, super strong kid, man. He could lift a lot. I know that. I know he's going to get paid a lot as well to come play football here in Miami. But
the guy can lift the entire training facility. I mean, that's impressive. I was like, holy shit, man. These are high school kids, bro. It's like, wow. And listen, people get all tied up with the whole fan crap of Georgia and all that kind of stuff and all butthurt. I don't really give a shit about any of that. To me, it's awesome that he's getting this. Okay. I need him to start winning because this will dry out quickly. He will not keep landing these people because everybody else will have the money. So I know that he comes here to be coached by Mirabal and Cristobal, which is godlike, an offensive line. We saw the dedication, something that Mike McDaniel doesn't do. They do it here. That's one thing I do respect about them. They get it that you've got to win at the line of scrimmages. And I love that they pound the shit out of the football. They use 3 running backs. They want to wear out the defense. But you got to win, bro. So when you land this Cantwell kid and you start landing, you got to turn this into ACC championships. You got to turn this into deep runs into the playoffs. I'm not saying you got to go back to the 80s and the 90s where you're winning a championship every other year, but dude, you better start getting in that mix because this is really fun when you can land these kind of guys, but you're not going to keep them if you don't win.
Yeah, you're right. And every head coach in college football ultimately has a window, whether or not they have a long, contract or not, like Cristobal does, signing that, 8-year, $80 million deal when he first got the job, or actually 10-year, $80 million deal.
That contract is getting shorter, by the way. It's not a longer contract now. Now it's a contract that is now starting to get shorter and shorter every year. So he's got to look at it that way too.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, like you're right. I mean, all of these kids right now are excited because Miami had the number 1 offense in the country. They just had the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Mario has Penei Sewell in the NFL. So there's an example of a premier offensive tackle that he coached. Francis Mauinoa is going to be the next one. He's got this thing headed in the right direction, but ultimately wins and losses and whether or not you make the college football playoff is really what's going to make the difference here with the next Jackson Cantwell and the next, elite prospect that Miami wants to go after. Here's the thing, and I wrote this in my column. The SEC and the Big Ten right now have a stranglehold on getting elite recruits in this country because they are seen as the 2 premier conferences. If you need any proof of that, go back and look at the first round of the NFL draft this past year. 26 of the 32 draft picks in the first round played in the SEC or the Big Ten. And that's all permeated on the fact that those are viewed as the 2 premier conferences in football. And so for Jackson Cantwell to pick Miami, to come play for Mario, to say, I'm going to go to the ACC and not one of the 2 premier conferences in college football, sends a message that Miami is one of the few programs, because there's not a lot of them, that can actually contend for a national title without being in those 2 conferences. And that's going to be a lot harder to do in the years to come if you don't start making the college football playoff every single year.
Yes. And let me piggyback on the exceptional point you just made, and I'm going to bring it back to you and I have lived this. Mm-hmm. There's no difference than the Big Least. Another crappy conference and the Big Least, it's the same shit. The only difference is that it wasn't about money for Miami in those days. It was about cachet. It was about production. It was about, oh shit, yeah, Alabama or Oklahoma might give me a little extra cash, but bro, those people are winning, and I'm going to end up in the NFL, and I'm going to end up with a high pick, and I'm sure there's some money on the side that there was here, but nothing like it is there. So we had the equalizer in those days. And the money in college football wasn't crazy like it is now. Well, guess what? We can't live off of that equalizer anymore. The equalizer is the NIL, which is what you've said many times on this segment, that Miami's NIL is as good as anybody's in the country. As long as you do that, that's our equalizer. If Mario can win, that's the one that catapults you over the top. So the mechanisms are the same. There's still an equalizer. Back then, it was your reputation, winning, and sending people to the NFL. That equalized the difference in your facilities and a little bit of money that they had that you didn't. Now, the only equalizer is that NIL. So that's why I started the segment with, yeah, it's great to get Cantwell, but you got to win. So with that NIL and winning, Miami doesn't need to be in the Big Ten or in the SEC.
Right. But you got to win and you got to make the playoff, which is why Notre Dame and Clemson continue to recruit at a high level, because they have won championships or played for championships in recent history, whereas Miami has not. And so right now, really what's keeping Miami in the race to get guys like Cantwell and have, top 10, top 15 recruiting classes is Mario. It's the belief that, hey, this guy can get Miami there. But sooner or later, if you don't do it, if you don't have something to prove, like, proof of concept, hey, look, we made it to the playoff. Hey, we won the ACC this year. That message gets stale with recruits. And so you're right. There is a window here for Mario ultimately to win. And we'll see whether or not they can cash in this year. I think their team is good enough on paper.
They were last
year. They were last year. And I think they are again this year.
Yeah. The one thing both football coaches in town have done, Mike McDaniel and Mario Cristobal, they both have underachieved every single season. Every single season, they have not won the amount of games they should have won. They should have won more games. That's all I got to say. And so it's time that either McDaniel or Cristobal or both start winning the amount of games that your talent says you have. So that's where I have to point my fingers at both guys. Both guys I've been very disappointed in on game day. Everything, the only difference is there's a lot of other things I dislike about McDaniel. There's nothing I dislike about Mario. Nothing except game day. That's it.
Right.
He's perfect everywhere else. Unlike McDaniel, who's imperfect in a shit ton of places, Mario is perfect everywhere, dude. He's just got to get the shit done, bro, on Saturdays. Enough.
Yeah.
Gotta win. Okay, now, I'm not going to get into fan shit. I don't care about Georgia or Ohio State, butthurt or whatever about that. I don't give a shit about that. But here's what I do give a shit about, because I know the negativity is out there and you're part of the national media. So what the fuck is all about this, that we get the Cantwell kid and our rankings go down for our recruiting class and him? That's a load of shit.
Well, look, the guy, I know many of the guys who do these rankings, okay? And I can tell you the one in particular, 247, Andrew Ivins, who people are criticizing because he's in charge of their rankings.
I got to get him on. What the hell is that?
He's one of their national analysts in charge of seeding all this stuff. Look, they have meetings, lots of meetings. They get on the phone together. They have these Zoom calls. They talk about guys. And these things are planned well in advance. They have to update their rankings as they go through spring, as they go through the summer, as they go in different camps, etc. And the thing is this, though, they have to update the rankings. They can't just leave it the same the whole year, right? Because then it looks like they're not really doing their job. So they have these debates every few months and they update their rankings. Look, I'm telling Miami fans who believe there's a conspiracy, it changes every time. Like, it's gonna change. It's gonna be shaken up. Had the kid moved from a 5-star out of a 5-star, okay, I can buy the complaint. But who cares if he's number one or he's number 10?
One recruit to like the number 4 or 5 or something like that, right?
I think he's 10th. You think he's 10th on their rankings?
No joda. 10.
Listen.
How does he go from 1 to 10, bro? But it's just clickbait shit then. That's all they're doing.
Hey, listen. I know that Andrew puts a lot of work into this with those other guys. I know he does because I've talked to him while he does this stuff. He takes it seriously. But here's what I would say to the Miami fans. Who gives a shit if he goes from 1 to 10? This isn't the NFL draft. This isn't like a guy's falling in the draft and losing millions of dollars.
I know, but it's just weird, bro.
I know. But like,
all of a sudden you're recruiting the number 1 player in the country, and then all of a sudden he becomes the number 10 player in the country.
There's no conspiracy. There's no, hey, we need to screw Miami over. I'm telling you, the number 1 guy switches quite a bit. The only year that really didn't happen was Jeremiah Smith's year, and I think that's because everybody knew Jeremiah Smith was a freaking badass, and like there was nobody who was going to overtake him as a number 1 player. And look, Cantwell is still number 1 in the 247 composite, which compiles all of the rankings together. So he's still viewed as the number 1 player in my book.
All right, it was just kind of funny, wasn't that? Although
I get it.
We don't want him number 1. The last time we had number 1, it was like Willie Williams or something, and that didn't work out for us.
Chantrell Henderson, I think, might have been the last one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What are we? What's the next recruit they're going after now for 26?
Well, they got 10 commitments right now. They're in the number 10 class, and there's a lot of guys that are going to be coming in. We're about to hit the official visit weekend in a lot of places. Florida's having a big recruiting weekend this one coming up. Miami has let me look at which weekend it is here. May 30th is the first major one, and they got 21 guys that are set to come in here. Look, the main ones for me, and whether or not I deem this a good year for Mario on the recruiting trail, 2 guys in particular. Derek Cooper, who is an elite, running back out of Hollywood Chaminade High School, a guy that I think is very comparable to Sean Taylor in terms of his ability to play offense or defense and be a star on either side of the field. I know they have him playing running back right now, but I think that kid could be a great player on either side of the line of scrimmage. And then the wide receiver out of Miami Northwestern, whose name escapes me right now. What is the kid's name? His mom went to UM. I can't remember his name right now. Calvin Russell. There you go. Calvin Russell. 6'5", 195 pounds. Miami's competing with Syracuse for that kid. He's a 5-star prospect. You got to be able to land these elite guys. If your program is really heading to that, promised land, and you're winning big games, and you're turning the tide, so to speak, you beat Georgia for kids in your own backyard that are elite kids. And look, that was a huge win to get Cantwell. But to me, the best players in South Florida still haven't said, hey, I'm just going to Miami. And they're difference makers.
Winning, bro. Winning.
Yeah.
But you know what? Considering what they used to recruit and what Mario's done now, it's leaps and bounds. The talent is getting better. He just has to add the final ingredient on Saturdays. If he does that, dude, they'll be lining up to come here because you have said the real key every single time. They've got the money, bro. They've got the NIL. If they've got the NIL, all we need now is the winning. And then the pipeline just starts once again. It'll start all over. That's why I'm saying that I love the Cantwell, recruiting, but you got to make sure you end up in the ACC championship game and in the playoffs this year. You have to start turning the corner. That's really the entire key for everything, because that's when all those top kids all over are going to go, well, I don't have to leave. I can just go to Coral Gables and I'll go to the NFL and I get paid.
Yep. And that's the key, and until they reach that point, it's just going to be, hey, can he do it?
So you get paid and you win at Georgia. You get paid and you win at Ohio State. Here, you're only getting paid. Oh, by the way, that's what happens with the Dolphins. They only get paid too.
Yeah, no winning there either.
No winning. Right. And unfortunately, you could get away with that in the pros forever because it's the pros, but in college, it's going to hurt you. Yeah. And that's where we need Mario to turn the corner on Saturdays. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. What else you working on the athletics so folks can check you out, my friend?
Yes. Well, I just put out a story on young, talented quarterback, Neiman Lawrence, out of Miami Northwestern High School. Kid's only 15 years old. He just turned 15 in January, and he's already 6'2", 200 pounds. He's the quarterback of the South Florida Express. Went to Ransom Everglades the last 2 years. His parents are doing, I think, a really good job raising him. He's had his own private quarterback coach since he was 8 years old. So he's kind of the next big thing, I think, to come out of the state of Florida. I think he's a guy who could potentially be the number one recruit in the country in 2028. And so I went down to Northwestern. I watched him go through a practice with Teddy Bridgewater, who, of course, is coaching Northwestern and led them to a state title last year. And Teddy's got him running an NFL offense. The kid told me, he said, we got 30 different formations. He's changing protections at the line of scrimmage. He's audibling in and out of plays, setting up, calling out everything. And he's 15 years old. So if you want to read about that, you can check it out at The Athletic.
By the way, I was tripping out with Mario because, he called out Kuiper on the Hokie Ward thing. And I loved it because I've said for years, because, you know me, I went to Senior Bowl for a couple decades, and Kuiper was never there. Kuiper, with a Senior Bowl or whatever, East-West, I don't think I ever saw him at the East-West or the Gridiron Classic, but he showed up like once or twice at Senior Bowl in like 20 years that I would go, and he was in the press box the entire time, never down with the football people. And he only talks to agents, really. He does talk to the Ravens because he lives there in Maryland, and if you notice when he talks football, he'll always have a lot of positive shit to say about the Ravens. And that's because that's really like the only facility that he has some connection with. He really doesn't talk to people around the NFL. And so what people don't realize. And so I really like that Mario did that, because deep down inside, Mario knows also the bullshit that he doesn't really talk to NFL people. He gets most of his information, when he does, from actual agents, actually.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's so many reporters for so long have lived off of that, and just being told, the insights from certain sources who always slant it that way. And so when you go back and you look at their actual reporting and how good they are at actually doing their job, it's through the lens of somebody else, right? It's not through the lens of necessarily everybody involved. And so being in journalism as long as I have, I do a lot of homework in my off season, brother, to know about the ACC and these players and these kids, and don't always have to talk to people, agents per se, but I get what I need, and I feel like I do a pretty good job.
And you got to try to get the other side.
Yeah, and that's what I love about The Athletic. We don't, I cover the whole shebang, brother. It's not just one team, so I don't just view it through the Miami lens when I talk about the Hurricanes.
Amen. Follow him on Twitter at Manny _Navarro, and catch his work there at The Athletic. Manny, as always, thank you, my brother. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up next week.
All right, brother. Take care.
You got it. And, of course, BigCheeseMiami.com is the website. 305-662-6855. Pasta. It's shipped from Italy, cooked fresh daily. You're going to love it. Tell them that Big O sent you, and those garlic rolls are to die for.
You've been listening to the Big Cheese Miami Recruiting and NIL Report with Manny Navarro. At the Big Cheese Miami, they continue to purchase the same high-quality ingredients that the most expensive Italian restaurants use. The difference is they serve large portions at a family price. Visit the Big Cheese at 8080 Southwest 67th Avenue in Miami. Call 305-662-6855 or go to thebigcheesemiami.com. Go Canes!
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.